Hi everyone and welcome back. It's Vicky here and today I will be sharing an art journal page. I will be working on my 6x6 journal and this has watercolor pages inside. They are nice and thick, so whatever medium you will use is not going to bleed at the back. Plus, it's a nice size to start with art journaling if you are new to it, because you don't have to cover a big real estate. It's hardcover and I made sure that it opens completely flat, making it super easy to work on. So I usually get inspired by the season or by specific products or focal points, and today's inspiration comes from this collection. This is a new one by Stamperia. And I just love the color combination in this one with all the blues and golds. So let's start working on the page and I will use rice paper to begin with. Now rice paper is nice and thick and it gives you an instant background, so it is a great way to break that blank page. Now there is a pack where you can get all those designs. However, I don't like to use these as they are. I always like to cut out pieces and use them here and there, and sometimes I even combine rice papers. Of course, if you cut out elements, don't throw away what's left because you can use it on another page. So here I'm going to combine designs from those two rice papers and I'm going to show you how you can use them a couple of ways. So one way is to just use a brush that you dip in water and then draw around the areas that you want to use. This is going to wet the fibers and it's going to make it super easy for you to tear it off, making that soft edge with all those fibers, which is going to allow for a nice soft blend when you stick them on top of your page. And I can do, of course, the same thing here. I'm not going for the focal points on those rice papers for today. I just want to use them as backgrounds. So here is one way on how you can combine them on your page, and you will find that where those teared edges are, they are going to blend beautifully. Also remember, these are semi-transparent, so you can even see the color gradation from behind. So that was one way to use it. However, for this page I'm going to create rectangles. So I'm using my scissors and I'm just going to cut out of those many rectangles without taking into consideration sizing or anything, just randomly, so that I can put them together on top of my page. And then it's time to stick them down. Now I am going to use rice paper glue to stick them down. This is a great glue that is very forgiving, so if you stick that and you don't like where it is, you can easily lift and reposition with no issues at all. As I stick everything down, I make sure that I cover them also with the same glue, which is going to seal it down. And I'm going to stick everything by overlapping a little bit, so that I end up with having lighter and darker areas. This is going to give kind of a patchwork look at the background, and without thinking at all, you end up having a lovely background, which is a great starting point for an art journal. You can do that with any rice papers that you have. I'm not going to go all the way to the edges with those rectangles, just because I want to create kind of a frame, a white border all around, but you can definitely do whatever you like. Also keep in mind that I'm showing you the techniques here on a page inside a journal. However, you can definitely recreate something similar on a canvas. Same techniques apply to different surfaces. So I'm following my 7 steps technique for art journaling, which are really super easy to follow and guarantee great results. So the first step was to add rice paper as your background. The second step is to use some white acrylic paint over it and just fake it till you make it. Just make it look artistic. I'm applying the white paint with my spatula completely randomly, just to make the background look more artistic. You can definitely do that with a brush. If you want to see the brush strokes, make sure that the brush is completely dry. And since I do have all that white paint on my craft table, I can always dilute it with water and just add some splatters. White splatters are always nice. Step number 3 is to do some stamping. For that I'm using my background stamp set. This is going to give you lots of different stamps that you can mix and match on your background, and they are designed so that they can match pretty much any project. So I'm going to use a text one, and I'm just going to stamp with permanent ink. Stamping with permanent ink is quite important at this stage, since no matter what you do later on top of that background, it's not going to smudge or smear the stamping. And you see, sometimes I'm using a stamping block, other times I just use my fingers, since it makes it easier to get that organic look. I don't want to end up with perfect impression of the stamp. It makes it look more organic. Next step, let's do some stenciling. Now there are many different ways that you can use a stencil for this step. You can either go with a stencil and paste, you can either go with stencil and inking. I am going to use volume paste here just for a fun different effect, and on top of it I'm going to add embossing powder. So here I'm just going to go with volume paste. This is just modeling paste, which is nice and thick, and it's really easy to play with because it doesn't go underneath the stencil just because it's so thick. So again, randomly I'm going to add some of those shapes, and when I play with layers I never think of what is going to happen on the next step. So I'm just having fun layer after layer, and at the end of the day everything just comes magically together. So here I'm just going to add my embossing powder, and this is copper, and it has lots of shine, as you can see, glitter. This is going to stick where the volume paste is, and I'm not making an effort to make sure that it's going to cover up completely wherever volume paste is. So I will have some white areas and some others with the embossing powder. Now, of course, the next step is to heat set that embossing powder, which is going to heat set the volume paste at the same time. This is going to make it bubble up, but it's a fun effect, especially for art journaling, because it gives extra texture, extra volume. And since I do have that black stamping, I'm going to do some black splattering as well. For that, I'm using my watercolor palette, and I want only fine droplets. That's why I'm using a very fine brush. I'm super happy with how my background is looking at the moment. All that's left to do is to find the focal point. So I'm using the paper cutouts. These are again from the same collection that I got inspired, but they are already cut out for you. All you have to do is just pop them out. So if you're one of those people who hate fuzzy cutting, this is the product for you. I'm in love with this girl, so this is the one that I will use as my focal point. And the fun part about these paper cutouts is that they are double-sided, so you can turn it around, flip it, and you can use it any way it matches your composition. For sticking my paper cutouts down, I'm just going to use again my rice paper glue. You can use whatever glue you have for that part. And I am going to cover the lady on top with rice paper glue just because I am used to it, but really it's not important to do that. There is one benefit, however, just because you seal it down with that medium. If you do something by mistake on top, it's really easy to wipe it off. So I'm going to give her a bigger flower just to make a bigger impression, and also a couple of leaves. So that's step number 5 in my process, where you put together your focal point just by playing with paper cutouts. And with that variety that you get, it's really difficult to know when to stop. So here I'm just adding one more flower, a little tag that I popped out. And of course the fun part is that since all the images are part from the same collection, you know that they are foolproof, they are going to match beautifully together. So really the process is super easy. So I added a few stars here and there. Just stick them with a dot of glue to decorate the blank space of the page. However, I don't like to cover it up and make it super busy all over the place. So you see I have an area with my focal point and the other stays quite plain. I also have this pack of ribbons from the same collection, and I'm going to use some of the ribbons up at the top I'm choosing designs that are quite subtle, which are not going to add too much into the project, but just little details here and there. This way I keep everything on my page interesting to look at, but at the same time it's not super busy and overwhelming. Now I'm hunting for a quote. I always like to add quotes on my art journals, and there is a page in the scrapbooking part which is full of quotes that you can use. I do have both versions, the 8x8 and the 12x12 one. I decided to go with the 12x12 one just because it is larger and it's going to make a bigger impact on my page. And finally, for the last step where I'm doing some doodling. Here I'm using a very fine black marker and I'm just sketching around some of the areas where I feel like I can add some shadowing, which is going to help the elements pop against each other. I'm not outlining everything. I'm not trying to do the best job here. Just sketchy lines here and there will do the trick. And then I am going to switch to my gel pen, and I like to use the white gel pen by Jelly Roll, and I'm going to add some white highlights here and there. Again, here completely randomly without overthinking it at all. And as I'm doing my finishing touches, I will repeat the 7 steps for you. Rice paper first. 2. Use white paint. 3. Do some stamping. 4. Do some stenciling. 5. Create your focal point. 6. Add a quote. 7. Do some doodling. And we are done. Here are some close-up photos on the finished project. I hope that you had fun, that you got inspired. Thank you all so much for joining me today, and I'll see you all next time.